Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Welcome to the depths. Hello, welcome back to Reading from the Depths. My name is Lecton. Thank you for spending some time with me today. So today I am doing a book tag. This is the BookTube behind the scenes book tag. This was created by Robert G., reader of books, and I was tagged by John from Must Read More. And I saw Robert's original post, and I thought it sounded like an interesting tag. Didn't really know if I had too much to contribute, but then when John did his version of it and he tagged me, I thought maybe I had a few things to say, so why not give it a try and see where it goes. So this has 11 prompts as well as a prompt to tag others, so let's jump right in. The first prompt: when recording a post, do you read from a prepared script, or do you refer to notes or broad outline, or do you speak extemporaneously? I have notes, I have bullet points, I sometimes have an outline, but that's about it. So most of what I'm doing is extemporaneous, but I do have a structure I want to follow, and that's more because I don't want to forget things. I have a tendency to go on and go on tangents and lose my train of thought or ramble or repeat myself. So having a set of outlines at least gives me some direction, and then when I do find myself going off on a tangent, I have some way to bring myself back. Now for my review videos, I will have written a full review before I actually make a video for it, so I often will refer to those as well, especially depending on what, the reviews I usually write within a day of reading a book, but sometimes these videos come a little bit after that, just depending on my schedule and when I can film a video. So I'll refer to those reviews, but I won't read them. I just use them as inspiration to kind of jog my memory. But in general, most of this is off the cuff, though I do think about them ahead of time, and I do prepare something ahead of time. 2. Do you edit before you post, deleting any hems and haws, misspeaks, mispronunciations, and other common public speaking foibles? Do you remove things you didn't mean to say or off-topic thoughts or comments you think might be misunderstood? Yeah, very clearly, I edit my videos. That takes more time than recording the videos. I edit for all of the reasons mentioned. I'm not too worried about my ums and my hums and my haws. I do edit those out sometimes just because I want to cut down the video length. And any fraction of a second I can edit out without causing, a disturbing experience when watching or listening to the video, I will do. But those aren't my focus. I don't mind showing how ponderous I am and how, spacey I am. That isn't a problem. But I often stumble over my words. I think faster than I can speak. And so I stumble over my words, or I say this is a perfect example. I have the right word in mind, but it just doesn't come out, right? So I lose it. So I stumble and I get lost. So those things I usually edit out. I'll probably leave that one in because case in point. So I edit those out and I repeat myself. So if you look at my unedited videos, they're usually twice as long, or around twice as long, maybe a little less than the videos that I actually produce. And that's just because I still, my head and my mouth don't work at the same speed. And then I do edit out off-topic thoughts. Well, I edit out things when my videos are too long. Then if I find there's a tangent that can be edited out, I want my videos ideally to all be less than 20 minutes, and they often aren't. My wrap-up video for April and my TBR for May was 35 minutes, but it started out as 50 minutes, So when my videos are long, I do try to edit out things that are tangential that aren't necessary for the video. But if I can leave those in, if I feel they contribute to the video and they don't make the video longer than it needs to be, then I leave them in. As far as things that that I think might be misunderstood, I do edit those out. I'll talk a little bit more about those when we get to question 4. But as far as off-topic thoughts, I will say, as a Buddhist teacher, Tibetan Buddhists especially, I can speak for, we are prone to talk and talk and talk. You look at Buddhists and you think of Buddhists as being these silent meditators, and that is true. Yet, if you ever attend a Buddhist religious service, it's all exegesis. I teach a couple times a month at a Dharma temple, at a Buddhist temple in Bangalore, which is nearby. And when I teach, I usually teach on the weekends, and I'll teach 2 days, usually. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a priest, who's an Episcopalian priest, as I was preparing for my teachings that week. And I commented to him, you have a parish that you lead, and every Sunday you have to write a homily that is somewhat in line with whatever the lessons are of that day, right? The biblical readings. But for your services, and for most Protestant and Catholic Christian services, if a service is 90 minutes long, that's going to be 75 minutes of music and ritual and 15 minutes of sermon or homily. And with a Buddhist service, at least Tibetan Buddhist service, there are pujas that are pure ritual. But aside from that, so the teachings I give, it is the opposite. So it is 15 minutes of ritual and prayer and song or music, and then, an hour and a half of just sermon. So when I prepare a teaching, it's basically a 2-hour sermon every time, because usually my teachings are around 2 hours long. And so there's a lot of work that goes into those. So as a Buddhist teacher, you just get used to expanding on things, right? And to take small philosophical points and then to go off on tangents to see how those relate to all different aspects of your life, both your worldly life and your spiritual life. You know, I often give the example, the founder of my sect of Tibetan Buddhism, Je Tsongkhapa Losang Drakpa, he wrote a commentary to a very famous Indian text. The Indian text, well, excuse me, it's a text written by an Indian author. Actually, it's a Bengali author who was at one of the great Indian monasteries, Vikramasila. His name is Atisha Dipankara, and he traveled to Tibet. And he wrote this text called Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and it is 68 verses long. And Je Tsongkhapa wrote a commentary to that text, and it's one of his most famous texts, and it's really accessible. That's why it's so famous for lay people and for monks and nuns, for scholars and for just everyday practitioners. And it's called The Stages of the Path to Enlightenment, the Lamrim Chenmo. So the Lamrim Chenmo is a commentary on the Lamp for Enlightenment, or the Lamp for the Path. Again, Lamp for the Path is 68 verses. The Lamrim Chenmo is, in its English translation, somewhere between 12 and 1400 pages long. So Tibetans have no problem expanding, talking at length. And that can become a problem, as it is with this question. So I'm going to stop now. But yes, I do go on tangents that sometimes have to be clipped or shortened. Question 3, have you ever edited a post after posting? Have you ever deleted an entire post? I have not deleted an entire post. I've never edited a video. I have edited a thumbnail once because I had made a mistake on the thumbnail, but that's it. I don't have anything against deleting a post. If I look back at an old video and I think it doesn't represent me in the way I want to be represented, then I have no problem with deleting it. I just haven't had that experience. I don't know how I feel about editing a video. That almost feels like gaslighting someone. Like they might have remembered you saying something and they go back to that video and all of a sudden it's not the same. So I don't know if I would edit a video. I think I'd take a video down before I would actually edit a video, but I haven't had the need to do either of those yet. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. We'll see. 4, are there certain topics you avoid, things you regard as too personal or too controversial? So this one is interesting. I don't know that there's anything I avoid. Obviously there are parts of my personal life that don't need to be made public, that don't go on the internet. So I guess I avoid that. As far as things being too controversial, like I kind of am who I am, and my political views and my views of society in general are kind of out there. So not out there as in way out, far out, but out there as in the public sphere. So that's part of who I am. I think it's important to talk about those. However, and this is where things get complicated. And this goes back to question 2. Do I want to make sure I'm not misunderstood? As a monk, I have a responsibility to make sure that I don't ever do anything that could cause disrespect to the teachings of the Buddha. A fully ordained Buddhist monk has 253 vows that we live by. And a lot of those vows have to do with how we're perceived by others, that making sure our behavior is in line with the expectations that others have of a Buddhist monk. And the reason for that is because whether I like it or not, I'm a representative of all the teachings of the Buddha in the world. And so when people see me, and if they see me behaving in a way that they feel is inappropriate, then that might cause them to lose faith or to have negative thoughts about Buddhism in general, or the teachings of the Buddha. And that would be disastrous, right? If my actions were causing other people to lose faith, whether they be Buddhists losing faith in the Dharma or non-Buddhist developing some sort of disdain or criticism for the Dharma as a result of my actions, that would be really disastrous. So we have a number of vows to help prevent us from engaging in behavior that could cause that. Now, those vows are 2,500 years old, so they don't always apply one-to-one. And so we're expected, as monks and nuns, to make sure our behavior comports with society's understanding of what it means to be a monk or a nun. And that is an always moving target. I know there are a lot of more traditional teachers who would say that me talking about pop culture, talking about books, talking about fiction, talking about these things in a public setting would be inappropriate for a monk or a nun. I can appreciate that. And the funny thing is, for as radical as I am in my politics, both my identity politics and my actual social politics, I am very traditional in how I experience being a monk and the vows of a monk and the responsibility I have as a monk and as a spiritual teacher or a religious leader. I have a very traditional view on a lot of those things. And so I have this balance of trying to say, what do I think is appropriate? So obviously, I think as a monk, it's appropriate for me to engage in discussions about pop culture. And the reason for that is the people I teach, the students that I'm engaging with as my actual students, not just random people on the internet that aren't Buddhist or what have you. My actual students, one of my main concerns is that, most of them, or the overwhelming majority of them, aren't monks or nuns. They live in the world, and they're confronted with everyday life, and that includes pop culture. And so if you want to live a spiritual life, I think it's important to understand how to incorporate all aspects of your experience into your spiritual practice, whatever that practice may be. In Buddhism, we'd say it's your inner practice. So how can you read fiction and make that part of your inner practice? How can you watch movies, have a family? How can you do any of these worldly activities and still make that part of your inner practice? So since that is something I'm concerned with as a teacher and as a practitioner and, as a meditator, then that is something I feel comfortable talking about in public. Not everyone would agree. And so I do censor myself, and I do try to pay attention to what I'm putting out there, recognizing that since I'm a representative for a whole religious community, whether I want to be or not, my actions can have consequences. And my actions can have consequences in the idea of like taking down Buddhism, but it can cause one person to lose faith in Buddhism. And even that would be too much, So I believe the Buddhism as a spiritual path is obviously very meaningful and is expansive and inclusive, and it brings liberation for anyone that is seeking to follow it. And so I want to share that with people and show that it isn't just a small-minded, closed idea of what it means to be Buddhist or what it means to practice Buddhism or Buddhist meditation technologies, what it means to engage with those in the world. I want that to be open, right? And part of that is the way I engage in the world and in pop culture. But I do have to be conscious. So I have literal vows about how I wear my robes. I have vows about how I eat. I have all these small vows that seem silly, but it's because perception matters, and we live in a world where perception matters. And so when I'm putting myself out there in public on YouTube, even though a lot of my vows don't actually apply to the 21st century, I still have those vows in mind that, like it or not, I'm a representative of the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, and I don't want to ever engage in activities that cause people to think poorly of the Dharma. So with that in mind, I do censor myself and I do avoid certain topics in this public forum. And that's just the way it is, And as you can see, as I just mentioned, I have a tendency to talk more than I need to and to repeat myself, so I'm going to stop there. 5. Do your posts include graphics, special lighting, music, fast cuts, or other design enhancements? And my posts do not. I have an intro and outro video, obviously, that you've seen, and I have edits, but those aren't edits for artistic reasons. They're edits to get rid of my foible, as I already discussed. The only other thing I have is if I'm discussing a book that I don't have a physical copy of, I do put a picture of that book up on screen. And sometimes when I make a mistake, but I can't edit around it, I will put some text on the screen as a way to correct my mistake. So those are the only additions that I add to my videos right now. I appreciate people that add more than that add graphics, that add cuts, that do more artistic editing. I think that's great. I do not have the energy for it. I enjoy being part of BookTube, but the making of the videos part is like my least favorite part of it. And I know that if I go down a rabbit hole of trying to make my videos more artistic, that is just going to suck up even more of my time. So I'd rather not start in that direction at all, and I'll leave that for others who do it so well, and I'll be inspired by them and motivated by them, but I'm going to kind of stay in my lane to try to manage my time, if nothing else. 6, do you have a target number of posts each week? I do. I try to do 2 posts a week is my goal. I have for a long time done 3 posts a week, sometimes even 4, but I aim for 2, and of those 2, at least one of them is going to be a review of the book. When I started this channel, I really did intend this to be a place for reviews. That was my main goal with this channel. And then I realized, I've been lurking on BookTube for a while, and I enjoy watching all the other content, but I didn't plan on making it myself. And when you're only doing book reviews, that really limits the size of your channel. And I knew that, and I have no problem with that. That comes up later. But as I started just making reviews, I realized that part of making reviews that people want to watch is letting people know a little bit about myself. And so doing some of these tags and doing other videos, whether they be video essays or just other bookish content, gives people a chance to have some insight about who I am. And then that will give them an opportunity to engage with my reviews in a more kind of holistic and robust way. So my reviews can have more meaning if you have a sense of who I am as a person. So then I started doing more of these tag videos and more supplementary videos. And I realized, as a Buddhist monk, my position and my view and my understanding of things is uncommon. And so I do have something uncommon to bring to the BookTube space. And so I've been doing these deep dives. Right now, I'm focusing on Stephen King. So it's called The Buddhist Path in Fiction. So I'm trying to model the way I engage in reading, this deep reading or intimate reading, as a way to bring my whole self to a book that I'm reading or any art that I'm engaging, really to give the art an opportunity to speak to me new, and so I can learn something new about myself. Again, this process of making everything I do part of my inner journey, my spiritual path, even if that is reading fiction. And so I've been doing some videos on that. Right now they're focused on Stephen King. Pretty soon that series is going to be done, and I'm going to continue, I think, the Buddhist Path and Fiction series, but in a more open-ended way without that kind of focused intention. And so that is something uncommon that I can bring to the BookTube space that I enjoy doing as well. So once I realized that, then I decided to do more than just reviews, and yet I still am really trying to aim for 2 videos a week. And sometimes I'll have more than that, sometimes not. I like consistency. I really like structure. And even though I live in India, which is one of the most chaotic places in the world and does not allow you to have the kind of stability or structure that you would like, I do like structure. And so I try to have 2 videos a week released on the same days every week as like my benchmark, as my foundation stone. And then if other things can get released around that, then I will add those on. And I, have no misunderstanding about my role in the YouTube algorithm. So I don't think it matters that I release videos on the same days every week. I don't have really devoted followers that are, on tenterhooks waiting for my videos to come out. So it doesn't matter to the outside world, but for the way I like to structure the world around me and my participation in it, it matters for me to try to be consistent in that way. So I try. As I get busier and busier, we'll see if I can keep that up. I'm aiming for consistency, not because I think anyone cares about it except for me, but it is something that, gives myself a little bit of structure to try to work with him. 7. Are there certain theme posts you contribute to regularly, such as Poetry Thursday or What Are You Reading Wednesday? And there aren't. And there are a few of them that I'm interested in, that I enjoy watching, but I haven't yet felt the compulsion to jump in and be part of them. Part of that is, again, my video recording schedule. I only have free time to record maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. And generally, the way I structure my recordings is I try to record twice a month. And that is why I don't do weekly wrap-ups, but I do bi-weekly wrap-ups, because I try to record twice a month, and it takes so long to record and edit that I'll do 2 weeks worth of recordings, and then over those 2 weeks, when it's time to release them, I'll have to spend more time editing them. So I do the recording in one big batch, and then I edit them as it's time to release those videos. So participating in regular events like that is just not something I have like the bandwidth for right now, but there are some that are interesting to me, and so I watch them, and maybe I'll jump on some bandwagons eventually, but right now I'm not on any of them. 8. How important to you is the number of your subscribers? Is there a target number you're hoping to reach? If you don't hit your target, would you consider dropping out of BookTube? Are your posts designed to attract new subscribers? Are you distressed if you lose subscribers? I'd be lying if I said it doesn't matter to me at all. In the big picture, it doesn't matter to me. I like participating in this community, and I make these videos because I want a chance to share, especially my reviews of books that I enjoy and that I support, and I want to give some sort of attention to. And the beauty of reviews as content is that they're evergreen. So I have reviews that I did over almost, at the very beginning of my BookTube career, which is not quite a year ago, but almost a year ago, that are still getting views and still getting comments because people might find those books at any point in time, right? So with that in mind, I don't really worry about the subscriber count. I worry about creating content that I appreciate and that I think is good quality content. But of course, when you see your subscriber count rising, it does feel good, right? Even if you don't want it to, even if you aren't attached to that, it does feel good. It does boost your ego a little bit, and it does inspire you to want to keep making more videos. So I won't lie about that. I do enjoy seeing it. More though, I enjoy seeing communication. And John mentioned this in his video. And far more important than subscriber count or even view count is comments and being able to actually have dialogues with people in the comment section. Because just someone putting on my video for 30 seconds doesn't really mean they're engaging with me in any way. And I am subscribed to literally 1,000 different channels that some of them I subscribed to a decade ago, and I barely watch any of their videos now. And I just have never unsubscribed. Not just BookTube channels, I mean across all of YouTube. So subscribing to my channel doesn't really mean a whole lot if you're not engaging with my content. And the reason I make content is so people will watch it and engage with it. And the reason I do all of my reviews spoiler free is I want people to have a chance to watch my reviews even if they haven't read that book yet, but they may be considering reading that book in the future. So I want engagement, and that's more important to me than subscriber count. So if you watch my videos, I'd love it for you to comment and so we can have discussion. I never ask people to subscribe or click the like button. Maybe I should. I don't think I've said that in a single video. It just doesn't, it's not the most important thing to me. And I appreciate that there are algorithms. So the more subscribers you have and the more your video is viewed in the first 24 hours of its release, the more people it will be showed to. So it creates a feedback loop. I understand all of that. And yet at the same time, that is not why I'm doing this. So yeah, it's not the most important thing. If I were to ever leave BookTube or drop out, it wouldn't be because of subscriber count. And I don't design posts that are just meant to attract new subscribers. I do try to be smart about my titles of my videos. I don't like them to be clickbait, but I don't mind them being provocative if the content of the video lives up to whatever that title may be. So I don't mind doing that, but I don't do it specifically just because I want to. I don't like clickbait, and I don't want just to like hook new people. I want to be engaging and exciting. So that's what I go for. I don't know how well I succeed. 9, do you always respond when tagged? No, I don't. For a couple of reasons. One reason is I don't always know when I'm tagged. Like, I don't understand how the system works. But for instance, I was tagged by John at Must Read More when he did his version of this tag. And when I received the notification, I wasn't able to watch the video right away. But I remember that he had tagged me. So later, when I was able to have free time, I looked at my community tag and I went to the mentions, and all of a sudden I saw 4 or 5 other videos that I'd been mentioned in that I had no notification for. And I have no clue why that is. I don't know if I have a setting that isn't correct. But so sometimes I get tagged or mentioned in videos and I don't receive a notification for it. It shows up on my community tab within the YouTube creator dashboard. But if I don't go look there, I don't have any reason to know that I've been tagged. So that happens sometimes. I don't know why. So sometimes I don't respond to tags simply because I wasn't aware I was tagged. But so even when I am aware of the tags, I don't always respond to them. For book tags, I enjoy doing book tags, but I have to feel like I have something to add to it. And if I don't feel like I have something to add, then I'm not going to do it. I much more appreciate watching other people engage in these tags than doing them myself sometimes if I don't feel like there is something unique that I can bring to the tag. Just considering how much free time I do or don't have to make videos, I have to kind of decide where I want to put my energy. And so if I don't feel like I have something uncommon or unique to add to a tag, then I probably won't do it. But I sometimes do. And so for instance, in this case, I saw Robert's original post announcing this book tag, and I thought it was interesting, but I wasn't really motivated to make this video. But then when I was tagged by John and I saw his post, then I said, okay, you know what, maybe I do have some things to say about it. So sometimes I do respond, and I change my mind on these things, but I don't respond always. Sometimes due to my own fault, and sometimes because I'm fighting with technology and I don't know that I'm tagged. So a little bit of both in that regard. 10, do you respond to viewers' comments? Are your responses lengthy or only a thumbs up or down? I respond to every comment, or as best as I can, and I respond as lengthy as I need to. Some comments, there's nothing lengthy to say. If someone just says nice video, then there's not a lot to respond to with that. But I try to respond to everyone. And I have a small enough subscriber base that I can do that. You know, I watch some videos, some YouTube or BookTube friends, and within an hour of their video going up, they have, 50 comments. And I'm not sure how you can find time to respond to that many. So I have a small enough subscriber base that I do respond to all of my comments. But as I said, the interaction is like the most important part for me. So I'm always going to prioritize responding to comments in as meaningful or thoughtful a way as I can. And that might be short, that might be long. It just depends. 11, have you ever blocked anyone from viewing or commenting on your posts? I have blocked, I think, 2 people. When you do queer content, you're going to get people that just want to spew hate. And I don't really have any interest in engaging with that. People that use the anonymity of the internet to be hateful and mean aren't really interested in exploring where those emotions are coming from. And they're not looking for constructive dialogue. All they're looking for is to be loud and to make sure everyone knows what they think. And so I've had a couple videos where people have just said really hateful things. And I don't have any interest in engaging in that dialogue in this way. In real life, I engage with people as best I can. And in real life, I feel it is important to try to always meet people where they are in whatever the circumstances are. But the internet isn't real life, friends. The internet is something wholly different. So yeah, I have blocked a few people because I have no interest in, engaging with hate speech in my comments. So what are you going to do? Then lastly, tag some BookTube friends. I will see who has done this already, and then I'll make a list of people and I'll tag them down in my description below. Part of the problem with pacing out my videos is I'm recording this video the day after I was tagged by John, but it's not going to be released for probably at least another week, if not more than that. So by the time I actually release this video, maybe a dozen more people will have already done this tag. So that is part of my problem I'm not timely. Since I record in batches and I have a schedule planned out, I'm not timely in my responses to things. I don't have time every day to record responses. So I'm always a little bit behind the 8 ball with many things. And so that always makes it difficult to be part of the zeitgeist and also to tag people in videos like this. But I'll do my best. So that's it. That is the behind the scenes book tag. I hope you learned a little bit more about me, and I hope it made you more excited to watch my other videos and be part of my channel and to engage in discussion and conversation, because that is the most important part of BookTube to me, is creating community and being part of community. So I invite you to join with me in community in that way. For now, though, I think I'll say thank you for spending some time with me today. I appreciate you. Please be kind to yourselves, take care of each other, and go slowly.